The Seahawks, the Cowboys, Michigan playing Iowa, and the big college football game, Georgia versus Alabama. We'll be talking about all three of those games, exactly how to bet them, plus some UFC with Kyle Anthony. Welcome, everybody, to WagerTalk Today, the best daily sports betting show on the planet. Steve Merril, right off the bat. I'm Lawrence Presman. Teddy covers with me. How are you, Steve?
Doing well, boys. Doing well.
Well, let's talk a little Thursday night football right off the top. Marquee matchup, maybe, but not the way the Seahawks have played the last couple of weeks. Looking at the WagerTalk live odds screen right now for NFL action on Thursday. I'm seeing the Dallas Cowboys -9 in most places. There is an 8.5 that I see. There is a 9.5 that I see here in Vegas, but mostly nines. Total sitting at 47.5. What do you want to do with this Thursday night football NFC showdown, Seattle and Dallas?
Yeah, Teddy, two main reasons I wanted to talk about this game. First, obviously, it's the Thursday night primetime game here on Thursday. But the other reason is actually what you just mentioned there. It's because of where the line is currently sitting, anywhere from 8.5 to 9.5, because I think Dallas makes an excellent teaser selection in this game. And 9 is a dead number. Not many games land on 9, but there's a huge difference when it comes to teasers because at -8.5, if you can still find those books that have it, you can do a regular standard 6-point teaser and get Dallas down to -2.5, which gets them under a field goal in a basic straight-up win situation on a home field in which they've now won 13 straight games the past couple seasons. At 9, you can do a 6.5-point teaser. Even at 9.5, you can do a 7-point teaser. But as you guys know, you're starting to lay extra juice. Math doesn't always work quite as well. You have to tie it up with the second game. For those of you that are new to sports betting, a 6-point teaser, you get to move the line 6 points, but there is a catch. You got to do it with 2 games. You got to win both of them. It's the only time I recommend a parlay. It's the only time I recommend teasers is with NFL sides that are crossing the key numbers of both 3 and 7. And Dallas does fit that situation. So shop around. I do see mostly 9s out there. You'd have to do a 6.5-point teaser. And if you're going to tie it up with another game on Sunday, ideally you want to do a game that's at 9 or 9.5 also, so you're getting more value by having to lay that extra juice on the extra half point. The Dolphins, by the way, are 9.5 against not my Washington Commanders on Sunday. So you could do a 7-point teaser at Dallas and the Dolphins, get them both in straight-up win situations. Just something I wanted to point out on this game, though. I thought it was an interesting one to talk about, Teddy, because it's a Thursday night game, but also some teaser 101 information.
So back in week 2, Seattle won at Detroit in overtime. It was an impressive game for the Seahawks. But since that time, when you look at them against, let's call them winning teams, playoff teams, good teams, I see 2 games. They played Baltimore and got destroyed. They played San Francisco and got destroyed. Yeah, they had a couple of games against the Rams. The Bengals aren't a playoff team this year, et cetera, et cetera. But the 2 games where they played good teams, Seattle wasn't in the game either time. All right. When we're talking about a teaser as opposed to a straight bet, here's a Seahawks team that's just been getting annihilated by these squads. Why you think that you need the extra 6 points for this one?
Yeah, it's a good point. It's something I like to look at this time of year is class. When teams have played good teams versus bad teams. With the Dolphins, for example, I mentioned them, as another part of that teaser because they're playing the Commanders. Dolphins have beat up on bad teams. They've struggled at times stepping up in class as well. One of the reasons I like Dallas in a straight-up win situation with the teaser as opposed to laying more than a touchdown is a couple reasons. First of all, I think the line is inflated due to the fact they just had 3 wins and covers as double-digit favorites, but they played 3 bottom-feeder teams, the Giants, the Panthers, and the Commanders. Dallas is another one of those teams you can make the argument has not stepped up well in class this year. The 32-point loss at San Francisco, and then, of course, the loss at Philadelphia as well. They're 0-2 straight up at ATS in those games. By the way, they're a perfect 6-0 straight up at ATS in every other game since then on each side. I don't know if Seattle qualifies as a quality team. But they are 6-5. They are still in the wild card hunt, maybe a playoff caliber team, if you will. So that's another reason I think the teaser makes more sense is because I'm not so sure the Cowboys step up well in class either.
Steve Merril joining us. Steve, you have any opinion on this total, or are you releasing it? Like everybody, the Thursday night under is in effect, but here we have a Dallas team that has put up over 40 points alone. 3 of their last 5 games. This number is at 47.5. man, I would be scared as hell to bet the under here.
Yeah, I agree, Prez. It's over or pass for me on this total as well. And I don't read a lot into these primetime under trends. I don't, one thing you could point out is that normally on these Thursday night games, both teams have 3 days of rest and prep. So maybe that's one of the reasons. That's not the case this week because both of these teams played on Thanksgiving last week. So keep that in mind, everybody, that normally Seattle will be at a real disadvantage here. I think the road teams are at more of a disadvantage normally, but they both have the full 6 days of rest and prep because they played last Thursday. We have seen this total go from 45.5 up to 47.5, as you mentioned. 47 and 48 are somewhat key numbers. So it's lost a little bit of value crossing 47, but as long as it stays under 48, Dallas over would be the only way to play it. And once again, they've shut down 3 bad offensive teams of the Giants, Panthers, and Commanders.
Yeah.
But once again, gave up 42 to San Fran, 28 to Philadelphia. So I think Seattle probably can get some points in this game.
Yeah, Steve Merril joining us, everyone. You can find him at WagerTalk.com, exclusive handicapper with us. Steve, yesterday we asked a bunch of people in the chat room who's the most famous person they went to school. They didn't necessarily go to school, but your school, your high school. Who's the most famous person? One of our guys beat me. I have Geddy Lee. Some people never heard of him. We had a guy in the chat room that Adam Sandler went to his high school. I think Adam Sandler might be more famous than Geddy Lee. Anybody famous at your school?
I had a big school. We had over 600 in my senior class. The decade before, there was over 1,000. It was the biggest school in the country, I think, in Northern Virginia on that year. But what's funny is that I can't think of any celebrity types. But sports-related, Chris Warren, the running back for the Seattle Seahawks and some other teams.
Yeah. Really
he was about a decade before me on the football team. Another guy named Joel Patton was an offensive lineman for the Rams. So I do know some sports guys that have gone there. And then, of course, at William & Mary, John Leibowitz. Who's John Leibowitz? He was a 1983 soccer player on one of the best William & Mary soccer teams ever. Changed his name to John Stewart a few years later. And then Glenn Close was actually the homecoming alum representative this year. I think it was like her 50th. Glenn Close was here in the 70s. So not as many famous alums as you would think at both schools, though, because they both have some size to them.
Let me jump in real quick because I was actually talking with my buddy yesterday, and I used to tell stories about how we used to book in Ann Arbor. We used to have I didn't even realize Dave Portnoy was one of our clients. Dave Portnoy used to bet with us.
Wow.
I'd take his action.
Well, I tell that story about how we used to give NBA teasers as 6-point teasers because we didn't know they were 4-point teasers. We did it for the whole year. Right. And apparently I was talking to my buddy who I ran with. He's like, yeah, that was Portnoy and his buddies that were betting the 6-point teasers and losing every day.
And they were losing though, correct?
Yeah. No one beat us. We ran 6-point teasers for a full year in the NBA before we came out to Vegas the next summer and realized they were only supposed to be 4-point NBA teasers. And Portnoy and his buddies were betting them and paying us. And my buddy says Portnoy still owes him money. He says I should send him a bill because apparently he stiffed us the last time out.
Well, we got a lot of people in here. Mike Tomlin went to the same school as Raven Ron. Ken Kirchhoff, he played Cliff Barnes on Dallas. I'm old enough to remember that guy. Jack Del Rio. Interesting. No celebrities.
Raven Ron's about 15 minutes from me then, because Mike Tomlin went to went to high school in Newport News, and of course was a William & Mary alum. I forgot to mention Mike Tomlin and Sean McDermott. They were both here when I was at William & Mary. So Raven Ron is probably in the Virginia neck of the woods.
I guarantee you no famous person went to the same high school as Marco. Michigan playing Iowa, Steve. Look, big Saturday of college football ahead of us. Michigan is minus 22. I think Iowa's team total is around 1.5. How do we bet this game?
Yeah, guys, we had to talk about this game. It's been fascinating for me all season just to talk Iowa football in general. Now 7 straight unders. Every one of those games have been 34 points or less. This total is now set at 35.5. But yeah, Prez, that's one of the most fascinating things I've seen all year is that team total. Theoretically, 22-point favorite, 35 points. You minus that, it's 13. Divided in half, it's 6.5. So it'd be 28.5 to 6.5 should be the final score. Yet, as you said, a lot of sports books have like a team total at half juice to the over. I mean, it's just crazy what's going on in this game. And I'm definitely interested to get Teddy's thoughts on it as well. And you'd be like, look, Iowa's got to score, right? Well, talk about stepping up in class again. They were in that very weak Big Ten West division. They did step up in class once this year. against Penn State, and that was a 31-0 loss. They did not score in that game, and there was nothing misleading about it. They had 4 first downs in the entire game, 20 rushing yards, and I don't have it in front of me. I believe 58 passing yards total in the game. And you can make an argument Michigan's a better defensive team. Now, I do think it's a little bit of a flat spot for Michigan, but it might not matter because they're a smash-mouth running offense. That keeps the clock moving as well. So, by the way, my database simulation, 10,000 games simulated, has Michigan winning by 23.2. So I think the point spread is exactly right in this one. If you're going to play the side, I would lay it because I don't like teams that can't catch up when they get behind. So it's Michigan or pass on the side. But I think the under 35 has value. You know, we've had the 2 lowest totals in the history of college football, 2 of their last 3 games, around 27.5. They both stayed under. As I mentioned, 7 straight have gone under this total. The last 7 have all been 34 or less. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. We talk about this in the investing markets, right? You ride momentum. And Ralph Michaels and I have talked about this a lot as well. The lowest totals go under, the highest totals go over in every sport long term, and continues to work with Iowa. So under 35 if you're looking at this total.
So, in my mind, this is an impossible game. I mean, it's an impossible game to bet because we know we like Kirk Ferentz in these type of matchups.
Right.
All right. Ferentz, he has a proven track record in games like this where Iowa finds ways to hang tough. And yet, you talked about that Penn State game. I learned my lesson about Iowa from that Penn State game. I had them large in that contest, and they had no chance. I mean, there was no chance for that offense to move the football, and the defense eventually wore down. That game felt over in the first quarter, certainly before halftime. In a situation like this, with the total sitting at 35 and Iowa going under and under and under again and again, you talked about riding this trend. What's your biggest fear in this one? Is it Iowa scoring? Is it Michigan going off? Or is this just play this, keep playing those Iowa's low totals under, and there is no fear? Talk to me about what you're worried about in this one.
Well, the thing is, Marco's a big streak guy. Marco's on next, and he always says, the best thing about riding hot streaks is that you can only lose once, but you can win literally unlimited times. And it's funny because I do a lot of college football shows around the country, and one of the ones we talk every week is Iowa football. And it's just been a running joke. Every week the total gets lower and lower, and it's like, well, maybe they finally set it low enough. And if you had that mindset after the 3rd game or the 4th game, you missed 3 or 4 winners since. So, yeah, at some point they're going to go over, but it's hard to see them scoring much. And I mean, the team total, like Prez said, is kind of telling you that. It's theoretically 6.5, but some sports books have 0.5. I mean, so like Iowa shouldn't get to 7 points in this game. And I do worry about, Teddy, I'll get your thoughts real quick because you're Michigan Wolverines. But I mean, what's their mindset here? Obviously, it's a huge flat spot after the Ohio State game, but it is the Big Ten championship. And they, even if they lose this game, it'd get interesting. That's not going to happen. But they don't need to win by margin either. So that's another reason I just don't, see any way to play it but the under. And yeah, you say 35 is the lowest. By the way, it's the lowest championship total ever going back to 2000. In 2008, the ACC title game, Virginia Tech, Boston College, I think it was 38 or 39. That landed 42. I think it was like 32-10. But this is still like, almost a touchdown higher than Iowa's been the last few weeks. So I think there's value, actually.
Steve Merril, outstanding, brother. What do you got to promote?
Yeah, Teddy, I want to get Teddy Saw real quick, Prez. I know we're hustling today, but Teddy, what is your thoughts on your Michigan Wolverines here, their mindset this week?
So all the pressure's on Michigan. All right. However, all the pressure on Michigan. They lose, and it's a whole everything goes into chaos when it comes to the playoff aspirations and all of that. So all the pressure's on Michigan. So that means I'm not laying with it. That said, they got Harbaugh back this week. This is not a flat spot. They're playing for the right to play for bigger things even than a Big Ten title. But I don't think Michigan looks past the Iowa Hawkeyes. I don't think they come out and play flat. Lawrence?
Steven? Promotion.
Yeah, thanks, Prez. Yeah, I was going to say, this is a great week to be on board. I mean, we've got college football and pro football, obviously, but college basketball, NBA on a daily basis, just crushing it in all sports. And right now I've got a 3-day, a 30-day, or a 365-day special. You can pick which one works best for you. Whichever one you pick, you get every one of my personal best bets every day for every sport. And so it works out to just over $3 a day, depending on which package you choose. Special promo codes on my page, along with daily free plays. Check it out right now. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. And also don't forget college football top 25 video today on Thursday and NFL Fade the Public this weekend on Saturday. So check out, hit subscribe, hit the bell for instant alerts here on Wager Talk TV.
Steve Merril. Guys, Steve will be hosting the show starting on Monday for 8 straight shows. Woo. Steve, thanks for sitting. Yeah, bugger off, Teddy. You'll
stretching
have to put
out, man. Getting
face
ready.
To face.
Thanks, boys.
Yeah, tomorrow's my last show for a while. I'm heading down to the Win WPT Championships. If anyone who listens to the show is going to be down there, DM me on Twitter. I'm delighted to hook up, give you a hug, have a drink, coffee or water. Those are the only 2 drinks I drink. But yeah, and of course, give me a buffer when I have to see Teddy. So, Mr. Covers, yesterday I demanded 125 likes for the daily presidential address. I was lecturous. According to you, I gave the listeners hell. And then what happened, Teddy? What do you think happened after all of that?
I'm assuming if you brought it up, that means you won.
I swept. That's correct.
Well done.
The free money continues on the daily presidential address. And, I look at it and I'm like, hey, man, you're going to give me $29 for all my client plays. Or you could hit the like button and bet my daily presidential address. I got some free plays for you guys later on in the show. So let's get to 125 likes. Teddy, what did we learn last night in the wonderful world of sports betting?
I want to talk a little bit about college basketball betting because this is a sport that I don't do anything on until after Thanksgiving. There's too much going on in my world with college football, NFL, and NBA. And once college football dies down, I can focus on college basketball. And this is kind of that week where we look every day. Adam Trigger does a ton of college basketball prep work in the offseason. Lots of guys do. You want those guys' picks in November because they win. I'm not going to win in November because I haven't done my work yet in November. So I don't put out plays in November. Unfortunately, I learned that the hard way. But now here we are. It's time to start. So how do you start? Limited off-season prep, work in 3 other sports. Here are the things that I'm doing right now when it comes to college basketball prep so we can get involved in the next few days, week, however long it takes. First thing I'm doing is I'm making a list. Bet on, bet against for early season play. I'm listening to others who have done their off-season prep. I'm paying attention myself. I'm reading, and I'm making a little list. These are bet on teams right now. These are bet against teams right now. Not like I'm going to bet against them or bet on them necessarily every day, but the goal is not how good or bad the teams are. It's about finding teams that are good or bad relative to their market value. And in no sport does this matter more than in college basketball. You can make money with crappy teams who are priced like they're really crappy. Or mediocre teams, you can make money betting against them when they're priced like they're really good or pretty good. So it's about finding teams that are good or bad relative to their market value right now. That equals covering spreads or not covering spreads. One thing I'm not trying to do is get a read on 360 teams right now. I'm trying to get a read on 10 or 20 teams that I've got a good feel for. And post-Thanksgiving, I'm always looking to fade teams off huge, impressive performances last weekend that have created value problems for themselves. Or bet on teams that had terrible Thanksgiving tournaments that now have value the other direction. These are bet on teams potentially moving forward. And of course, this is the week that we started paying attention to the lines and the games every night, every game. First week I've done it. Once that starts, the official releases for me are bets. So that for you can really begin. So when's the first official release going to be? Well, we're tracking the short list tonight. If it's profitable, we're likely to be a go for the weekend. That's how I'm starting my college basketball prep, Lawrence. And that's what I learned last night because I spent a bunch of time with college hoops. What about you?
Well, I watched college hoops last night. My college hoops has been amazing, Teddy. Started day 2 this year. Won both last night. Had a miracle win on an over, dude. Like, honest to God, miracle win. But hey, a win's a win, right? I'm on an 11-1 college basketball run. 11 wins, 1 loss. Man, Teddy, I'm seeing it, man. Like my clients who bought my all access are killing it right now. And that shit makes me happy, man. I'm in a good mood. Last day of this stupid mustache, dude. At midnight tonight, Eastern, it goes. I don't know how anybody lives with one of these. I drink coffee. My entire face smells like coffee for 2 hours. I had a pizza slice yesterday. I had cheese dangling from the hair. I don't want to kiss. I feel it all day. Who in their right mind would wear this shit? Anyway, it goes tonight
Everybody.
at midnight.
Razors
You
are a
don't have-
relatively modern invention, dude.
You don't have one?
Everybody wore mustaches forever. I know. I got a razor now. Razors, you can use them. It's the 21st century. But for pretty much all of human existence, you had mustaches and beards.
Yeah, well, I don't like it. Big Daddy writes, Prez got a pep in his step. Damn right, Big Daddy. 3-1 for my clients yesterday. 2-0 for you guys in the daily Prez address. Killing it in every sport right now. Yes, I have a pep in my step. Does Marco D'Angelo? Marco, you pepping? You
Take the
are.
under.
I read your Twitter, bro, and you are rolling. So congratulations, brother.
It's been fun season. Going to be sad to see college football end this weekend as far as the regular season goes. We'll be rolling into the post game with the bowl games. And, if you've watched, that little show Bet on It, I'm going for a big streak this week. We're trying to get our 13th straight college football best bet on the show. So you got to tune into the show to see it. Didn't bring it with me today. Got to make you watch the show.
So, Marco.
You've won 12 straight on that show, and this is the first we're hearing about it now?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, you don't talk about a no-hitter till, it's there. And we lost week 0, Teddy, and then we rolled off 12 straight. Last week's game was San Jose State. I absolutely loved them. I actually went to the game on Saturday. First time I saw a UNLV game, 15 years being in Vegas. That was my first UNLV game, and I was there rooting against them.
There you go. Marco D'Angelo joining us, everyone, co-founder of WagerTalk Media. Marco, listen, this is a huge game. Alabama against Georgia. Alabama, 1 loss. They are outside looking in, but everything can change if they can win this one particular game. Georgia minus 5.5. They've owned Alabama the last couple of years. How do we bet this one?
Well, that's the narrative. And, you've got that Alabama fan base that, feels privileged and entitled, and every year they should be playing for the national championship. And, they got lucky as can be on Saturday. And generally, I'll be honest, I don't go against a team that comes off an ugly win, because a lot of times that can catapult you onto, a bigger game the following week. And we know they were looking past Auburn, and they almost got caught doing so. But the narrative with this Georgia team, even though they are the defending national champs in back-to-back years, everybody's like, they're not as good as they've been. And it goes back to the start of the season. They were 5-0 straight up, but they were 0-4-1 against the spread. And everybody, what's wrong with Georgia? What's wrong with Georgia? You know what's wrong with them? Nothing. They were bored. When you win all of those games in a row that they had and get to the national championship game 2 years in a row and win it, the regular season is monotonous for them. And they were laying more points than they should have been in those games, and they didn't care. They just got the W. But every time they faced a step-up game this year where there was a team that supposedly was going to be the team that could knock them off their perch, they delivered the goods. Most recently, a few weeks back, they absolutely destroyed Tennessee 38-10. Last week, they had one of those get through the game. They didn't care against Georgia Tech. Yeah, it's a rivalry, but so what? It's more of a rivalry for Georgia Tech. All they were thinking about was Alabama this week. Georgia's a better defense. Georgia's a better offense. I'm not sold on this Alabama team. Too often, Alabama had to rally in games that they fell behind early in the game. And speaking of the Georgia-Tennessee game, I'll look at the Alabama-Tennessee game. Alabama was on the ropes in the first half of that game. I know because I had Alabama and was sick watching the first half of that game. They rallied. I like this Georgia team. They're going to eliminate the chaos of Alabama winning and putting, everything upside down as far as who's going to be the Final Four. Georgia wins and covers. I've got Georgia winning by 13.
So the longest winning streaks in college football over the last 20 years, it's a tie. Clemson won 29 in a row in 2018, 2019. Florida State between 2012 and 2014. Both those 29 in a row. Look, Georgia's won 29 in a row, and no team in the last 20 years has won more than that. Isn't it just time for Georgia to lose one? It's a yes or no. Is it time?
No.
Well, thanks for explaining that that's a yes or no. Marco, in case you didn't know, it's just a yes or no allowed.
No, it's not. Don't step in front of a streak.
So what do you make of the fact that this happens to be the longest winning streak for any team in the last 20 years, and both teams that got to 29 both previous teams lost their 30th ball game?
That's, you know what? That's a very short sample size. You're giving me two teams. That's what you usually do to me.
Teddy, let's spin that around. What do you think of that? Is that something that you're going to be factoring into your handicap?
So my opinion of this game is different from Marco's. I will likely have it as a client release. And it's not my job to step in front of Marco's play here. We're not debating.
You
it's Marco gets
literally
to
do
have
that
his play
every day.
No, I try to make a point. I'm not sitting here trying to argue the other side. It's not a debate between me and the guest. The guest is the play. It's my job to say, hey, this is what I'm concerned about. This is what I'm worried about. So I say, are you worried about this or something? But it's not a flat out debate. If you want to debate this,
No,
read my
but what I
write-up
want to
after I
know,
write it up.
Teddy, what I want to know, put aside which team you like. Is that something you factor into your handicap? A hockey team wins 20 in a row. No team's ever won 21. Is that factored into your handicap? Do you consider that relevant?
On some level, and it's certainly not the primary reason or the secondary reason, but on some level, I feel like Georgia's going to lose a game. Yes. Whether it's this game, whether it's the next one, whether it's the one after, I don't think they're going to go three straight, into the third year undefeated. Now, doesn't mean it has to be this one, but I think Georgia loses a game this year before all said and done.
There we go.
Maybe two.
Marco, we got one more game to talk about. Look, you grew up in what I now know to be the beautiful city of Pittsburgh because I went to see the Dead there this summer, and I actually thought the city was spectacular. Prior to that, I thought it was a disgusting shithole, but I'd never been there. They're playing Arizona. Arizona plus 5.5. Man, I got a tough time betting on Pittsburgh as a favorite, especially with more than a field goal. What are you going to do in this game?
Well, everybody's so excited because Matt Canada got fired in the first week without Matt Canada. What happened? The Steelers had over 400 yards of offense. That's the first time in almost 3 years. So that includes Ben Roethlisberger at quarterback as well. But they still only produced 16 points.
Yeah.
They had over 400 yards and 16 points. That is the problem. They can't get the ball in the end zone. And I can't lay points with a team that can't put the ball in the end zone. And they're going to be facing an Arizona team that, granted, they're 2-10, but they're 1-2 since Kyler Murray's come back. And one of the two losses was by 5 points to a team that's playing fairly well, the Houston Texans. They're a young team, but they're playing well. So I am not dismissing Arizona having any shot of winning this game. I think they actually can win. And why? Because Kyler Murray is a mobile quarterback, and the Steelers have always had trouble when facing a mobile quarterback. Yeah, they face Lamar Jackson twice a year when he's healthy, no question about that, but they do struggle in those games. I am looking for Arizona to not only go into Pittsburgh on Sunday and stay within this number. Sadly, I think they win this game. One of the things that you had last week, you had the element of surprise. You didn't know what the play calling was going to be from Pittsburgh because nobody had any game film on the new offensive coordinator, Sullivan. Well, now at least you've got one game under the belt. They saw what they did. And as I said, as bad as Cincinnati is, they generated no offense last week. It still was a 16-10 game. I think Arizona will generate more offense. You also got a running back for Arizona that's going to be pumped up coming back to Pittsburgh. James Conner played his days at Pitt and also started his career with the Steelers. So I'm looking for big games out of Kyler Murray and James Conner, and I'm looking for a upset 20-17 Arizona.
Yeah, Marco, you mentioned the score 20-17, and I was going to ask you, in listening to your handicap, and I say this to our listeners all the time, read between the lines. You started your handicap talking about how Pittsburgh can't score. Then you mentioned that they put up a ton of yardage and still only got 16 points. Then you talked about the Arizona running back who should have a big day. And then you mentioned the score, which is 4 points less than the total. It feels to me like you're telling us to bet the under in this game. And I don't understand, listening to your handicap, why the under isn't the better play than Arizona here.
Oh, because I gave Arizona as winning the game outright, and they're getting 5 points.
Okay,
That's
there we
why.
go. But you like the under?
Yeah, until Pittsburgh shows me that they can score points, you can't look at an over with the Steelers right now. Plain and simple.
Marco D'Angelo, you are going for your 6th NHL winner in a row. You've got a 4% NHL game of the week going tonight. Kick ass with it, brother. I want to know what it is. Can you whisper it in my ear? Just
Yeah, I'll do that later, buddy. Yeah, it's actually all sports 6-game winning streak, but the hockey's been very good. You know, Prez, I'm a spot player in hockey, and I look for great situational plays, and we have one of those tonight in hockey. When you read the write-up, you'll understand what I'm talking about. You can head over and get that. But I want to tell you, you can pick that one game up for $25 tonight. Or we are running a special. If you watch Bet on It, you'll see the special this week we're running. We're going for 13 wins. I'm offering 13 months of service. If you sign up right now for 2024 at the special price of $1,200, that's $100 a month. I'm throwing in the final month of December free of charge. So you're going to get 13 months for the price of a discounted calendar year. So check it out. Less than $100 a month, you get every play I release. That's all sports, and it also includes when we have special horse racing plays,
Right.
Triple Crown races and stuff. You get everything.
Marco, can I guess your play?
You can text me after, and I'll tell you if you're right.
Marco D'Angelo, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Oh, Marco, I have a bone to pick. You know,
Yes.
Our listeners know that I have a love affair with edibles. I will be in Vegas at 10 o'clock on Monday, 10 p.m. I'm told you're not going to pick me up and act as my drug mule. Is that correct?
I always end up being your drug mule, Prez.
One way or another.
Who flies into Vegas at 10 p.m. from the East Coast? You're landing at body clock at 1 a.m. That's not a plus EV move at all.
Well said. Marco D'Angelo, get the hell out of here. Teddy, it's time for your big game breakdown.
Big game breakdown. Let's talk some NBA for Thursday night. How about the Lakers and the Thunder? Right now, look at the WagerTalk live odds screen. I'm seeing OKC minus 5.5, total sitting 233, 233.5 for this Thursday night battle. We have seen a little bit of money for LA. The markets, I think we're anticipating the Lakers might sit guys on the second of back-to-backs, but didn't have to work that hard last night in Detroit. It was a complete blowout. No starters had to play in the fourth quarter. The only starter to play more than 30 minutes was D'Angelo Russell. It was a men versus boys kind of game. And, and of course, they have been blown out themselves the game before at Philly, the worst loss of LeBron's career. So LA responded very well last night and then basically didn't need to exert themselves too hard. LeBron James, we responded well, quote, we played a lot better. And of course, Russell had double digits in the first quarter and Davis had double digits in the first quarter, and that team rolled. Now, the Lakers started 0-5 straight up on the road. Since, they played much better. They won 4 of their last 5. We look at the wins, Portland, Detroit, Phoenix when Phoenix was shorthanded. It's not like they're beating the better teams consistently on the highway. And we talk about a second of back-to-backs for LA. They beat Orlando by 3, failed to cover at home. They lost by 15 to Sacramento after they blew out Memphis the night before, the most similar situation. And they also lost at home by 3 to Dallas. So they're 0 for ATS on the second of back-to-backs. And OKC ain't no lottery team. They're 12-5 ATS this year. They're making money for their backers just like last year. But they're coming in on their second 2-game losing streak of the season. They lost by 4 to Philly and by 3 to Minnesota. No shame in either of those losses. After the first skid, where they lost 2 in a row, they won by double digits the third game, but that was Detroit. But we are talking about a team that is 4-1 ATS off a loss, 5-0 ATS if you got the best of the number. They lost by 3 at Minnesota the other night, but that line was as high as +4 and as low as +2.5. It didn't matter when you got it. OKC cares about regular season games. They care about bouncing back off a loss. They care about facing a team like the Lakers. I'm not convinced LA is going to match their intensity this evening. Bottom line, if I'm playing, I'm laying. Give me the Thunder or pass on Thursday night NBA. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Prez.
8 more minutes left of the show. We have a hard stop. Kyle Anthony joining us. Kyle, who's the most famous person that went to your high school?
Actually, Tom Cruise went to my high school. Whatever his
winner chicken dinner.
He was on the wrestling team. His real name's like Vanderpop, his last name, or something to that effect.
And you
is his real name.
Scored more women than him.
maybe, but that's the claim to fame right there for the high school.
There we go. Wow. Kyle walked in and just mic dropped there. Brother, no follow-ups. We're just going to shut up. You've got 2 bets. Do them both at the same time. Go.
All right. So we have Arman Tsarukyan here. He is -300. On the comeback here, we have Beneil Dariush. He is +240. So when you're looking at this fight here, you have Tsarukyan here. He is well-rounded. He's a rising prospect, 27 years old. On the other side here, you have Beneil Dariush. Dariush, veteran, well-rounded grappler. Excuse me. But the big thing here is you have 2 grapplers, and when you've got 2 grapplers, a lot of times it turns into a striking bout. Both guys don't want to go into the wheelhouse of the other one, don't want to get into the strength of the other one, and they kind of look for a path of least resistance, and kind of it plays out in a different kind of format here. Both of these guys do have a great takedown defense rate, 75%, 80%, both of them very high. But this fight is a kind of fight where I see it playing out more on the feet. I do think there could be some grappling, but this probably will play out more on the feet. And when you're looking at something like that, I really like Tsarukyan on his striking. He's athletic. He's way younger, more explosive. I think that Beneil is very hittable, can be hit in the pocket. Even at times, he's very sloppy. I mean, I know a lot of people talk about his striking and elevating. I don't really see it as much. Again, sloppy and his chin is there to be hit. He's willing to go in the pocket, and when he's kind of out of position, I think this is where Arman lands some big shots, body shots, leg kicks, all over. I think he really owns him on the feet. And the other part here is the competition level. If you look at the competition level that Beneil has, a lot. Last fight I bet Charles Oliveira, he got the knockout in that first round against Beneil. But if you take the last 6 opponents, because people looked at Beneil as this guy was going to beat Islam Makhachev. If you take the last 6 opponents for Beneil and you take their last 3 fights, those opponents are 5-13. Not good. I don't believe that this is going to be a good spot for him. I think that he really goes out there, Arman, pushes the pace, has that volume, has that cardio. So getting off the big number here, I like Arman inside the distance. It's roughly around, plus 110, plus 100. I like it. I think that's a good spot. Knockout is right around there, but I'd rather play it safe and go out there and get that finish. So I think that Tsarukyan goes up there and gets the job done at plus 110. Now, the other one here we have is Rob Font and Deiveson Figueiredo. You've got Rob Font here. He's minus 140. The comeback here on Figueiredo here is plus 120. Rob Font, he is a fantastic fighter. Great when it comes to striking. It comes to his boxing. Great jab, good footwork. Deiveson Figueiredo on the other side here. He's a well-rounded guy, but he is coming up in weight. He was the featherweight champion, and he's coming up in weight. Now, normally, I don't like that. I don't like that at all, unless you're a young guy trying to find your way or find your division. But when you're 35 years old and you're moving any division, at least it's not down, but you're moving up, it's probably not a good thing. Now, the other part of this is the fact that he's kind of forced to move up in weight. And one being the fact that he's 35, the weight cut's been very, very difficult for him. But the other part is the fact that he just fought Brandon Moreno 4 straight times over the last 2 years and some odd months. And that to me is tunnel vision for him. He's 1-2 out of it. He's 1-2-1 out of his last 4 against Brandon, and he cannot go back. He's going to be in the back of the pack when it comes to a title shot, even if Brandon drops the belt. So he is forced to come up to this division and have an opportunity here now to fight. And the other part is the fact that a lot of the things that made Figueiredo very good in the featherweight division, I don't believe he brings to the cage on Saturday night. I really don't. He's able to bully guys, move forward, be the bigger guy, all those things. He's not going to have those things. You've got Font. He's going to have a 3-inch height advantage, a 3-inch reach advantage. I think those things are really where he's going to find a lot of success at distance, landing good shots. That's really where it's going to come from. And then really lastly, it's going to be the vulnerability for Rob Font. And I think the reason why this line continues to come in is people are really believing that Deiveson Figueiredo is going to get these takedowns, going to get that control time, and that's the path because you have Rob Font, 46% takedown defense rate, not the greatest, and we just watched him get washed against Corey Sandhagen, 7 for 7 on takedowns. The difference for me here is the fact that that's not Davidson's game. He can grapple, he's got some submissions, but he's not going to dive at legs for 3 straight rounds. If you look at it, he averages 1.44 takedowns per 15 minutes, 42% success rate on those. I think that this is going to be more of a standing and striking bout when you're looking at it. And then also all the equity and really any kind of win equity for Figueiredo, I believe is a finish. And you look at it, Rob Font, 7 losses, only 1-time finish back in 2017, and he was submitted. I like Rob Font here. I don't agree with this line movement. I think he goes out there, gets the job done. So I'm thinking Rob Font minus 140.
Boom! You can breathe now, Kyle. Roll it. Plus 27 units in his last 4 UFC events. 6-0 best bet run. What do you got going for this weekend, brother?
Yeah, so I have another best bet going, 5% up this week. Right now, it's right around that plus money range, feeling good about it. And that's one thing. We found a lot of value, good spots, good plus money. 3 plays on there now. Probably going to have 5, my normal around 4 or 5 plays. So let's keep it going. Let's keep it rolling.
There we go. Kyle Anthony, everyone. Thanks for joining us, brother. We'll see you next Thursday. Teddy covers. We got well over 125 likes. It's time for the daily presidential address. Okay, everybody, just quickly, I'm going to give you guys a ton of NHL bets. I love this NHL card. First off, a shout out to Carmine Bianco. He's got a 5% NHL play up tonight. Carmine is amazing in NHL betting. So, and I know the play, and it's presidentially approved. I am on an 11-1 college basketball run. I have my second college basketball 4% play of the up. I've only had one this whole year, and I won it. So I have a 4% college basketball play up on an 11-1 run. I have 3 hockey plays, and I have 1 NBA play. So check that all out over at WagerTalk. Here are a slew of NHL bets for you guys tonight. Let's start off with Tampa Bay. I like them on the money line. They are minus 134 against Pittsburgh. I also like the Detroit Red Wings in regulation tonight. It's around minus 120. They're playing Chicago. I like the Florida Panthers in regulation tonight. That's a really bad spot for Montreal on a back-to-back with a road then home game. Florida off of a tough loss, take them in regulation tonight. And I like the under in the Vancouver-Vegas game. That's it for the show. Teddy, we missed the hard stop by a minute. My apologies. Take us home, bro.
Sure, life happens, my friend. That's going to wrap it for the Thursday edition of WagerTalk Today. We'll do it again tomorrow. Same time, same channel, 9 a.m. here on the left coast. Noon for you guys back east. Between now and then, you know the plan. Enjoy the games, and best of luck with all your wagers.